new, provocative titles. Films in which he had played only a bit role were promoted as if Valentino had been the star. Every scrap of unused Valentino footage was put back, and some scenes repeated 2 and 3 times. And what greater tribute to Valentino's popularity than these takeoffs by the immortal Will Rogers? Another concoction of the publicity department. Actually, Valentino lived quietly, a little embarrassed at the furor he created. He liked cars. His had a Cobra radiator cap. He tinkered. He was a sportsman. To improve his performances, he studied boxing and fencing. Valentino loved children, although he was never to have a child of his own. The thing he wanted most was a home and one woman, the beautiful Natasha. He finally persuaded her to marry him. They honeymooned in Palm Springs. The final divorce decree from Gene Acker had not yet come through, and Valentino was jailed on a technicality. Once again, June Mathis came to his aid. Valentino's next film was one that he detested, The Young Raja. He felt the studio was exploiting his name and walked out on his contract with Paramount's Adolph Zukor. The lovers were reunited, but unemployed. Then, George S. Ullman, representing a beauty clay preparation called Mineralava, had an idea. He set up a tour. Convention halls, armories, football stadiums, and tents. Valentino and Natasha danced, said a few words about Mineralava, and judged a local beauty contest. Then the movie studio made an offer. If Valentino would return to work, he would get $7,500 a week. But Valentino, with Natasha's encouragement, refused, unless he could choose his own stories. And off they went to Europe. For the first time in years, Valentino relaxed. These are actual home movies shot by Valentino and preserved by his brother Alberto. They stayed with his wife's family on the French Riviera. Valentino later called these the happiest days of his life. studio finally agreed to Valentino's terms, and Natasha had dreams of great movies to be made by the team of Rambova and Valentino. For the first picture, Valentino selected Monsieur Beaucaire, the costumes and settings by Natasha Rambova. Her influence on that grew. Then Valentino teamed again with Nita Naldi in Cobra. Miss Rambova was a brilliant woman and wanted to create a masterpiece that would live forever. She selected for Valentino The Hooded Falcon, the history of the Moors. Under her direction, thousands of dollars were poured into research and elaborate costumes imported from Europe. As far as we could find, the only thing that remains is this one still of Valentino as the Moor. Finally, the backers had enough. The film was abandoned. Valentino's new contract clearly stated that Mrs. Valentino was to have no part whatsoever in production. To compensate, Valentino financed an independent Natasha Rambova production, What Price Beauty. It introduced Myrna Loy to the screen. The new Valentino picture was The Eagle. He plays a young guardsman who has attracted the attention of Catherine, Empress of all the Russias. Catherine was played by Louise Dresser. Later in the picture, the guardsman becomes the Eagle, a Russian Robin Hood. Valentino's heroine was Vilma Benke. No one could resist Valentino for long. Here is another fine performance by Valentino, although few knew at the time that he was acting. He was heartbroken, for their marriage was breaking up. Natasha was going east to make another film, When Love Grows Cold, then to Paris for a divorce. In a vain attempt to hold her, Valentino had bought Falcon Leia. turned it into one of the showplaces of Hollywood. With the divorce, Valentino's life changed. For the first time, he lived the life of a movie star. Falcon Lair became the setting for fabulous parties, such as the wedding of actress Mae Murray to Prince Divani. The publicity cameras were busier than ever. Valentino and Agnes Ayers. Valentino and Luella Parsons. Valentino and Vilma Banky. And then Paula Negri. Soon, every fan magazine in America was writing about the Valentino-Negri romance. And the studio's cameramen kept the public thoroughly informed. George Fitzmaurice as director, Valentino planned a sequel to his first success, The Sheik. Many thought it ill-advised. The Sheik had been parodied so much that a film called Son of the Sheik could only be laughable. Son of the Sheik was a tremendous success. Everything about Valentino was news. A Chicago newspaperman wrote a vicious, unsigned editorial alluding to his slave bracelet and calling him a pink powder puff. Valentino demanded that the writer redeem himself. You slur my Italian ancestry. You cast ridicule upon my father's name. You cast doubt upon my manhood. I call you in return a contemptible coward. And to prove which of us is the better man, I challenge you to meet me in the boxing arena to prove in typically American fashion, for I am an American citizen, which of us is more a man. The newspapers believed the challenge was for publicity purposes only, but Valentino was deeply hurt and in deadly earnest. He went to Chicago at the appointed time, but the anonymous reporter did not show up. Valentino went on to New York, where he met with his friend Jack Dempsey and later staged an exhibition bout with a professional fighter, which Dempsey refereed. Valentino was in New York to attend the preview showings of Son of the Sheik. Lines of illness were already apparent on his face. Still another woman entered his life, a beautiful Ziegfeld Follies girl, Marion Bender. They were out together one night when the tabloids had a field day. This is a fake photograph pasted together. A compositograph from the New York Graphic. The confused public read, peritonitis, appendicitis, gastric ulcers. The doctor said, crisis in 3 days. 48 hours. 24. People waited by the thousands. Waited for news that skeptics said would turn out to be just a publicity stunt. There were hourly bulletins. The crisis was past. Maybe it had been a publicity stunt. years before, had stepped ashore at Ellis Island. Even before Valentino's body was taken to the funeral home, fake pay stubs showed him lying in state, and even in heaven. Outside Campbell's, a line formed. More and more people came. The rain added to the confusion. The police began to have trouble. For a description of what happened, we quote John Dos Passos. In the muggy rain, the cops lost control. When, finally, the mounted police beat the crowd off, the funeral chapel was gutted, the show windows shattered. Men and women had fought over a flower, a piece of wallpaper, a piece of the broken plate glass. Unquote. The next day, the damage was repaired and the windows replaced. Under strict police supervision, an orderly line filed past Valentino's body. 9,000 passed the open coffin every hour. 10 hours each day for 3 days. Why did they come? Curiosity? Love? The vicarious thrill at passing close to greatness? Why do some seem to be on their way to a picnic instead of a funeral parlor? Pola Negri rushed east. The day of the funeral, fearing another riot, the police allowed no one within 4 blocks of St. Malachy's Church, except by special permit. There were 2 funerals, one in New York, and then Valentino's body was taken by special train to Hollywood. To prevent another outburst of mob hysteria, the train stopped at a little town outside Los Angeles. Miss Negri had accompanied the body. All of Hollywood attended the funeral. Pola Negri. Charles Chaplin. Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford. Silent on the sidelines were the mourners who would miss him most. The public, the faithful. They mourned a man whose voice they'd never heard. The odds could be summed up by a newspaper editorial from the Chicago Tribune, the same newspaper which had published the Powder Puff article. The death of Rudolph Valentino is a deep personal loss to most of us. We loved him because he was a weaver of dreams, because he brought color and romance into our lives. He embroidered drab moments. He smiled into our eyes. And for a little while, we too became storybook people, and everyday worries were things that were very far away.